Hi, I'm JP Miller with Reach, and we're continuing on in our Wisdom for Sale tutorial. In the previous section, we created code so that the buyer can attach the contract. And this one will enable the buyer and the seller to be able to cancel a transaction. And so we're going to go to our common interact here so that buyer has the ability to cancel a transaction if they decide that they don't want to buy the wisdom after all. So we'll find our common interact and we'll begin in our front end in index.mjs. So around line 20, you should see your common interact object, which should be empty at this point in time. And we're going to populate this with a report cancellation method. Report cancellation is going to be a function that has no input and whose output is also empty. The output in this case will be a console message. So let's build that. And we'll say the buyer canceled the order. All right, get our semicolon there and the comma, and that's that there. Okay, and then we'll hop over to our backend, the .rsh file, and we'll find our common interact. It should be on line 3 here, and it's also an empty interface. And so let's populate that. And again, since the front end mirrors the back end, interact objects in the front end mirror the interact interface in the back end, so the names will be the same. So we'll have report cancellation. And of course, report cancellation is a function that has no input and has no output. Okay, and so now that we've created this method, we want to actually be able to use it. So we'll scroll down to the buyer's local step, and then we'll find this condition. So it should be around line 28. And after this commit, we're going to create the ability to report that there was a cancellation. And we'll do that using an each method. What each does is allows the participants to quickly move from the step that they're in, so either a step or a consensus step, and then allows them to move into their local step. And then return to the step that they were previously in. So in this case, seller will move into their local step, interact with the report cancellation method, and return to step. And then buyer will move into their local step, interact with that report cancellation method, and then return to the step. And then we'll exit. And that will take care of the update. For now, at this point, we can run our DApp. So let's clear that out and let's give ourselves a run. So we'll do a reach run index seller on the left side. And while that's running, I'll get our buyer up and running. So we'll do the same but different. Reach run index buyer. Okay. So that'll load. It should only take a second. And we see that we're the seller. We have our algos. We're connected to algos. And here's our contract information. So what we want. So I'm going to copy that and paste it over here on the buyer side. And do we want to purchase the wisdom? Well, we want to test the N for report cancellation. So we'll do an N for no. And the buyer canceled the order. And over here on the seller side, we see that just updated to say the buyer canceled the order. And then we show our balance. Okay, great. It is kind of clunky, though, to say the buyer canceled the order for both of our participants, especially for the buyer, because both the buyer knows that they canceled the order. So it's kind of weird to say that. So we can update this. We'll go back to our front end, and we can update our common interact object here to take in role as a parameter, and then we can use role in our console messages. So let's update that together. So we're going to recreate common interact to take in role as an input. And we'll turn this into a function. And I'm just going to select everything inside these curly braces here and drop in a parentheses before the curly brace. Okay. So there we go. And we've got a report cancellation. That's all that's all going to stay. We're just going to update this messaging in the way that we show our console log. So let's update this to say role okay, and so it's saying, hey, if the role is equal to buyer, then we'll say you. And if not, then we'll say the buyer. So I'll keep that in there. And then we can close our curly brace, and then it'll continue on with the end of the statement, cancel the order. Okay, cool. Now, since we've added role to our common interact as an input, we need to also update that to the seller interact and the buyer interact. So let's add in role as an argument where we call common interact into seller interact, and we'll do the same for our buyer interact. Okay, and so there we go. Let's run it one more time to see our new messaging. So clear those out, and I just hit my up arrow to quickly access our last command. I'll maximize the size of our seller screen so that we can read this and get our contract. Okay, there's our contract. And we'll paste that in. And we'll say no, we don't want to purchase the information. And oh, looks like I forgot a curly brace in there. So, all right, small little bug there. We'll just find our common interact method again. I closed it too soon around role. So my mistake there, and we can run again. It's always the little things. You've got to pay attention to the little things when you're coding, because more often than not, a bug is because of some small error. And I cancel the order. You cancel the order. So it says that for the buyer as we expected, and the buyer canceled the order. All right, great. Well, that's a success. Join us for the next part of this tutorial where we'll complete a transaction. You can find links to the source code, links to the documentation, and other relevant information in the description below. And then follow us with the next step in the tutorial.